Good evening y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Alex Hernandez of Noticias Univision Chicago, which airs every weekday morning at 5 and 6. Thank you for being with us today. On the show tonight, community organizers outline their hopes for Chicago's new administration. The number of Latinos in the U.S. who identify as Catholic is declining. What's behind the drop? On-the-ground support for planting more trees in Little Village.
I just need a little minute out of your day to talk to them.
And talking trash with award-winning garbage collector Felix Martinez. All that coming up. But our first story tonight, priorities for the Latino community with a new administration in City Hall. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
As Mayor Brandon Johnson closes out his first week in office, Chicagoans are closely watching this new era unfold. In the city's Latino communities, public safety, cost of living, job opportunities, schools, and environmental justice top the long list of issues people are hoping to see the new mayor address. Organizations in those communities say they're as ready to work with Mayor Johnson as they are ready to hold him to his word. Joining us now with more are Jackson Flores, Secretary of the Pilsen Chamber of Commerce, Antonio Santos, Executive Director of the Gage Park Latinx Council, and Norma Rios Sierra, Cultural Events Manager at Palenque LSNA. I want to welcome all for joining us today. Thank you for being here. And my first question is actually for all three of you, but I'm going to start with you, Jackson. What would you say is the biggest issue in your community that Mayor Johnson needs to address?
Let's talk about it. I think there's a lot of systematic barriers that are limiting access to capital and to resources. And this is a trickle-down effect that affects small business, which ultimately affects the communities where these businesses are found, because it's an ecosystem. And I think we need to see more inclusion for small business, and this just creates a pathway for change in all different facets of industry.
And we'll talk about small businesses as well later down. Antonio, same question to you.
Yeah, I agree that systemic issues are at the root of everything. For us, we think of cost of living, inflation, spaces for young people to enjoy themselves and be safe are definitely a top priority.
Norma?
Yeah, for Palenque, I think it's a lot of things, right? There's so many crises that our communities are facing. We're looking at a housing crisis, immigrant crisis, and our schools are lacking funding. So, I mean, we've been doing this work for a long time, and we're just really excited to do the work with someone who's going to be supportive of it.
Jackson, let's talk business. You're also a co-founder of Dish Roulette Kitchen, a nonprofit that supports small businesses. What's something that Mayor Johnson could do, actually, in the short term, to help small businesses thrive?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about it the last time that we got a chance to sit down.
Right.
And the access to capital and education, it's the foundation of everything, right? So in the short term, it's really going to be about aligning himself and creating a team that's going to actually carry out the action, right? I think he did a lot of really great work in the press and the leading up to the inauguration and meeting with a lot of local organizations and activists, and he's done a lot to prove that he knows where to go. Now it's going to be about action.
Have you seen optimism in the business community with this new administration?
Yeah, I think people are optimistic, and I think it's also a lot to put on one person. The reality is that it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of collective work between community leaders and the administration to carry out whatever initiatives are at top of mind.
Antonio, your organization actually has been helping out, offering support to some of the recently arrived migrants to Chicago. What would you like to see from the new mayor when it comes to migrants?
Yeah, I think that our response to the new arrivals and migrants has been a little slow. We see that people are still trickling into the Gage Park Latinx Council Cultural Center. Last week we had 15 people come in looking for housing resources and support that haven't come to fruition quite quick enough. I think if we're going to call it a crisis, we need crisis response, and we need immediate needs met, which is housing, food, and safety for recent migrants.
You think this new administration will take care of that?
We hope. that this new administration will take care of that. And if they don't take care of that, we certainly will vocalize the needs that we're seeing as a small organization and the support that we need from Brandon Johnson and his team.
Norma, Logan Square has had some affordable housing built in recent years, actually. What can the new administration do to improve the affordable housing situation there and elsewhere in the city as well?
Yeah, thank you. We've brought up a lot of initiatives that have really helped us kind of hold back the gentrification and the displacement that we've seen. And we just need to see continued support, right? That 606 ordinance needs to stay in place. We need to increase the percentage of affordable housing units that are built with every new development. And there's so many other ways that we can help that we just need someone in place that's willing to champion those new initiatives or those different ways of helping our families with housing. We have a community land trust to help people buy affordable homes. Like that needs continued support, right? So yeah, we're looking forward to having a seat at the table and to continue to be part of these conversations so that we can continue to move the work forward and find new solutions that are better than the solutions that have been in place, that are really just keeping that system of oppression and rooted in racism. It just keeps us in the same stagnant positions.
What's the feeling in Logan Square? What have you talked to from the community? What have you heard about the new administration?
Yeah, I think we're all really hopeful. We're all really hopeful that we're going to continue to have a seat at the table and that we're going to be able to be a part of these discussions and that our work is going to be amplified. You know, we've been doing this work regardless of who is in the administration. 25 years ago, we started the Parent Mentor Program in Logan Square, and now it's in approximately 1 of every 3 CPS schools. I know that Brandon Johnson knows and understands the power of parent engagement, and so we're really looking forward to someone who's going to help us amplify those programs across the city.
Jackson, do small businesses, or owners rather, really, think this will be an administration that will be willing to work with them, friendly to enterprise?
Yeah, I think this is a mixed bag of emotions right now. Coming off of the last wave of the administration, a lot of empty promises, not a lot of fulfillment in terms of what you heard. People are going to promise lots when they're trying to get, their seat in place. But from what I know, people are willing to do the work. They're willing to lean into the administration. They're open. And I think a lot of that comes from grassroots organizations that are creating that dialogue and bringing people in. We sat down with the mayor-elect for a community roundtable, and it was business owners for the last 40 years in Pilsen, community leaders, owners, and it was beautiful to see, but it was even better to see people that don't normally get the chance to vocalize their needs have that opportunity. And I think that's a great sign.
Antonio, what about the mental health clinics? Johnson said he's planning on reopening mental health clinics. You think that's a step in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a step in the right direction. It was a complete miscarriage of justice when Rahm Emanuel closed these clinics. And we know that the Cook County Jail became the largest mental health provider for our city. So that's one step in the right direction, but I would love to see Johnson's plans to expand upon mental health. We know that 6 clinics for the city of Chicago is not enough. I would love to see what mental health support looks like in CPS schools for our students so that we can really address root causes of problems before they become issues that we try to solve with more policing.
Norma, let's talk about public safety. What would you like Johnson's administration to do about public safety?
Well, I genuinely feel that this is about us just leading with love and really embracing community care, right? And our youth really are struggling right now. And I really think that the key is to embrace our youth, offer them more opportunities, offer them more work employment, open our schools, make all of our schools community schools, really to be able to embrace the family as a whole and to get to the resources that they ultimately need to be able to reach their potential.
Right. Now, let's talk about schools. Let's talk about CPS. Johnson has some experience there. What does he need to do to better the school system in the city?
I think one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to any type of leader is look at the team that you have around them, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's going to come down to who's holding him accountable to all of the promises he made, but also who's going to help shape what the future actually looks like. I think it's very important that, he has a background in education. He's also a father. But also, let's bring some new ideas to the table, because everything that we've been doing in the last 10 years isn't working.
Good. Antonio, we are very short on time, but I wanted to ask you, what would you tell the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, if he was sitting here with us right now? What would you tell him?
I would congratulate the new mayor and tell him that Chicago is at a point of dire need. To your point, things aren't working the way that they have been, and it's time for radical change in the form of drastic investment in communities that have been historically divested for decades. And I would ask for him to keep his campaign promises and move forward with helping marginalized communities move forward.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Jackson Flores, Antonio Santos, and Norma Rios Sierra for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, the driver of the year. We explain right after this. Don't go anywhere. How well do you know the people who takes away your garbage? You might want to get to know them a little better after this story. Every year, the National Waste and Recycling Association selects a driver of the year from 80,000 garbage truck drivers working for member companies. The driver who rose to the top of the heap this year is Felix Martinez, who drives a collection route in Mount Prospect for Republic Services and is known all around the cul-de-sac for his friendly nature. Producer Erika Gunderson met up with Martinez, the trash man whose customers say is a community treasure.
I always tell people it smells like money to me, you know, and it sure does.
Most neighborhoods don't eagerly anticipate the weekly arrival of their sanitation engineer, colloquially known as the garbage man.
I've always enjoyed what I've done.
But most neighborhoods don't have a national award-winning sanitation engineer like Felix Martinez taking away their trash.
That's a hard job to do. It's a benefit to our whole neighborhood that he's here. So we really appreciate him.
What does it take to be named Residential Sanitation Driver of the Year? Well, safety comes first in what can be a very dangerous job.
How you lift, you know, the safety, how you lift, how you push, how you pull. This stuff back in the day, you just grab it and throw it.
And of course, punctuality is a virtue.
I try to get in here 5:15, half hour, get a cup of coffee.
But where Martinez really cleans up is in customer service. Jan Stevens first met Martinez when he spotted her dragging waterlogged items out of her flooded basement while on his route.
Seeing jumped right out of the truck and ran to me, that's somebody that automatically goes out of his way. And that's how our relationship started. And then I wrote a letter to Republic and I told him how wonderful Felix was. And never would I have dreamed it down the road that he would have won this national honor.
When Fred Brill injured his back, he says Martinez went the extra mile to help get his trash out. And now they're good friends.
It's taken a lot of years to really get to know each other, considering that our relationship is about 3 minutes a day, 3 minutes once a week,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And normally if he doesn't come out, I'm calling him.
Martinez says he began working in trash collection right out of high school, about 37 years ago.
I got into business because of my uncle, Jose Martinez. Maybe because it was outdoors and I was good at it, you know what I mean? I was just fast. Bruce, what's going on, buddy?
But he says a gregarious coworker named Leroy showed him he could collect friendships along with the trash.
He didn't know he was probably being a mentor to me at the time. And then you realize it now that you're a lot like him, kind of makes me feel proud.
And in his 26 years working for Republic Services, Martinez says he's found all kinds of ways to help and connect with people on his route.
I'm telling this elderly lady, hey, it seems like you're moving that too fast. You're making me look slow, so I'll grab it from her. And I'm like, I can do it faster. So I'll walk the can down and they get a chuckle out of it. Anyone want a pop? I'd like to share.
first bloom of the season.
And he says taking a moment to make a friend is never a waste of time.
I just need a little minute out of your day to talk to him.
For Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, this is Erika Gunderson.
Well, Martinez says if you like to get to know your neighborhood collector better, offering a cold drink on a hot day is always a good opening, a great start, I would say. Catholicism is on a decline for Latinos in the U.S. That's according to a recent Pew Research Center survey, which finds only 43% identify as Catholic as of last year. That's down from 67% in 2010. A greater share of Latinos identify as religiously unaffiliated, including about half of Latinos ages 18 to 29. Joining us now with more are Mirka Gallo, Communications Director of United Catholic Youth Ministries, and Joem Navarro Rivera, co-founder of the Latinx Humanist Alliance and managing partner of the consulting firm Socioanalytica Research. I want to thank you both for joining us today, but I will start with you, Mirka. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me.
Are you surprised to see a shift away from Catholicism, especially among Latinos in the U.S., young Latinos?
No, not at all, actually. It's something that us at UCYM, the nonprofit that I work for, are also struggling with, is not just obtaining the Latinos who are aged 18 to 29, but also the Latinos who are adolescents, so 12 to 18. It's been really a challenge to have them come to church, come to any church function without having their parents to force them to attend.
Why do you think that is?
I think that it's a lot of reasons. I feel like it can be kind of the rigid structure of the church and of our parents' traditional values. And I think it can also be, Gen Z and the younger generation also feeling as though maybe mental health and also social values are not being taken in the church as an institution.
Interesting. Joem, what do you think is behind this trend of Latinos actually shifting away from Catholicism?
Well, I think there's a few things. I think I agree with what Ms. Gallo said in terms of young people not attending church. That this is a trend that back in 2008, 2009, when I was at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, we had been noticed before, and essentially, it has to do with many things. One is maybe the scandals that have plagued the church, particularly at the earlier part of this century, may be an aspect of that. Also, a recent PRI survey that came out earlier this week asked people who have left their religion why they have done so, and the vast majority said that they just don't believe the teachings of their religion anymore. That may be their own church, or it applies to different Christian and other non-Christian religions, but it's certainly a fact that maybe churches and church life is not resonating with contemporary living.
Mirka, your group, United Catholic Youth Ministries, well, it's more unconventional in its approach, right, for faith. What would that is? Tell us more.
Yeah, so here at UCYM, we are a part of the church, but we have our own space. So right when you walk in, you have a huge Black Lives Matter as well as an LGBTQA+ flag, and it says welcome all. So right then and there, I feel like that goes somewhat against the traditional rigid structure of what many of our parents, our Latino parents, feel is accepting in the church. And then we're also actually willing to say, if you don't agree with the stances that we have on social issues, let's have a conversation, and we're willing to meet you where you are, but we're also not going to shy away from the values that we have. But we're willing to welcome and understand your own values, and I think that that's what youth really are drawn to, is the fact that we are willing to say, hey, we understand that the institution of the church can be a challenge, but we're willing to work with you and have conversations so that you find your own spirituality and your own faith, your own relationship with God, because it's not about the institution, it's about who and how your relationship with God is.
Would you feel like departing from the Catholic Church as an institution and its more conventional ways is necessary in order to bring more young people to the faith?
That's one way, but I think that the important way in order for the church to keep Latinos, but also just to keep young people in general, is to follow the times of what's happening, especially within social issues. I feel like the church is still stuck maybe even going back to the 50s to the 60s and beyond that, right? But I think that the church needs to also understand that if we want to keep people, if we want to keep youth, we have to invest in youth, and we also have to invest in the things that are important to them, not just important to the people who are in the church, which are usually, older adults or parents like my own. So.
True. Joanne, going back with you, and this is actually a two-parter, right? First of all, what's a humanist, and what was it important to you to create the Latinx Humanist Alliance?
A humanist is a person who believes in the dignity of human life and basically that we are guided by reason. We do not have theistic views, as we would put it. There's no belief in the supernatural. So there's no belief in God. And essentially we try, the American Humanist Association, which is kind of like the banner organization, basically has the motto, good without a God. So it's people who do not believe in God, but who are trying to do good in the world and trying to create community. The Latinx Humanist Alliance, which I ran from 2018 until last year when we, AHA, the American Humanist Association, started going through a series of changes, and we're changing our approach to these groups. Essentially was a group that noticed the increasing numbers of people of Hispanic, Latino, Latinx origin who was abandoning religion. Many of them now, especially among the younger cohort, are now grown without being religious. And to try to give them a sense of community. So we had several leaders in the, we started with a few leaders from across the country who have been active in this movement, some that were starting.
Unfortunately, our time is up, but I want to thank both of you for joining us today. Obviously, we could take the whole show talking about this, definitely. So thank you for joining us today. Our thanks to Mirka Gallo and Joem Navarro Rivera. Up next, efforts to plant more trees in Little Village. Stay with us. A dense green tree canopy makes neighborhoods not only more inviting, but can reduce the effects of air pollution and climate change. A 2019 study by the city found Little Village was among the communities burdened by higher air pollution, and now the neighborhood is planting the seeds for change. In April, the organizations Open Lands and Enlace partnered with community members to get 31 climate-resistant trees planted throughout Little Village, including several at the Canoon Magnet School.
Started off, I had a Zen club, like a club that would gather and we would do some gardening. We have a learning garden. And so we had, with the kids, come up with an idea that we really wanted to plant some trees. And we got in touch with another organization, Enlace, who told us about Open Lands and that they help with that. They help bringing, the trees, planting them, gathering, whatever, the volunteers, organizing them, surveying the area for where they might be able to plant trees, not only at our school, but in the community. And so it just kind of grew from that.
Este programa me involucré porque soy coordinadora de Madres Mentoras. Y me invitaron al proyecto de los árboles, de la plantación de árboles. Y pues a mí me gusta mucho apoyar y por eso me involucré para tener más árboles en la comunidad y en la escuela.
Well, I think, we're going to teach them that you can make something happen. So I think that's what I was even more excited about. We went from this being a theory, even just reading about the need for trees, that we actually went through the full process of being proactive and putting trees in our community. And so I definitely think it's teaching them a lesson that they can make a difference, that they can go all the way and make a difference in their communities.
You can actually get trees planted for free in your community through Open Lands, as well as their free Spanish language tree ambassador courses. You'll find more on that on our website. That's going to be our show for tonight. Be sure to check out WTTW.com/news for the very latest from WTTW News. And if you're watching us on Friday night, know that you can also catch Latino Voices and Black Voices on Saturdays beginning at 6. Also, don't forget to join Chicago Tonight reporter Joanna Hernandez this Monday, May 22nd, on our next Latino Voices community conversation. She'll be joined by community leaders to dissect what being a sanctuary city for migrants really means as thousands of new arrivals are bused to Chicago amid an ongoing border crisis. To RSVP, you can visit WTTW.com/events. Don't forget also to tune in to Noticias Univision Chicago every weekday morning at 5 and 6. I'll be waiting for you. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Alex Hernandez. Muy buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a proud sponsor of diversity, equity, and inclusion-focused free continuing legal education for lawyers throughout the region.
Next time.
It's world famous and worth a fortune.
After a collector's prized clock is stolen, his son is killed.
Perhaps the deceased interrupted someone trying to steal it.
We need to find that murder weapon. They're one and the same thing, Chief Inspector.
Father Brown.
Saturday at 7 on WTTW.
Next time, a man is found dead, and when Neville finds his devious prime suspect,
Let the fun begin, eh?
He doesn't believe he will get caught.
his obsession
He's gonna literally get away with murder.
will be his downfall. Death in Paradise.
Saturday at 8 on WTTW.
The WTTW 2023 Great Treasure Hunt Sweepstakes is here. Enter for your chance to win a luxury home upgrade from our friends at Oscar Isberian Rugs. One winner will visit